We are live. All
Whoop.
right. Courtney, thank you for jumping on with me today and talking about vulnerability. This is a topic that you and I have been hiking and having conversations about. And you said something to me that you had heard it from somebody else, your definition of vulnerability. I don't know if you remember what you had shared with me, but I would love for you to share what is your definition of vulnerability? Because when you told me this, it hit something in me. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Because it's not
Yeah.
what people really think it is.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear it from anyone else. I actually was just I think I was just relaxing, which is pretty funny. And I realized I had this insight come through that vulnerability is not it's not what we think it is. It's what came through was that it's about deeply relaxing in the presence of another person or around other people. And what
Mhm.
was interesting about that is that I realized kind of simultaneously, it was this thing that I guess we know, but the way it came through, it was kind of, it translated something that I knew, but that I didn't have words for before because prior to that, quite a few people had told me in the past that maybe I wasn't being vulnerable. And I say quite a few, I'm talking about, I can remember 4 instances of people saying, "Oh, you're not being very vulnerable with me." And I recalled kind of in that moment, it all sort of happened simultaneously in terms of just my awareness opening up around this was those times, with the people that I was with, maybe they were complaining about something, they were talking poorly about someone else. And I remember not wanting to engage. And I
Mhm.
thought, oh, they're saying that vulnerable means that that it's like I'm airing dirty laundry or something like that, or that I'm sharing maybe secrets or talking about others. And the thing that also became clear was it wasn't so much that they were doing that thing, it was that my body couldn't relax in the
Mhm.
face of that. And then I wondered, like, could I relax in the face of even that, right? So it brings up so many layers of questions, but that was what happened, and it all happened. It took a while to just say it just now, but it happened kind of it just came through as this flash, almost like a lightning bolt.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that sometimes we think being vulnerable is a little bit of the airing of the dirty laundry or um, telling, a lot of the things you're going through. And I just love how it's really relaxing into it and sharing what we need to share without seeking that validation from the
Ooh,
other
yeah.
person
Yeah.
too. For me, I think that
Mhm.
that's that's important. It's like when I share stuff with you, I love how you're just open and I can share stuff with you and you're not telling me how to fix it. You're not telling me what to do or trying to redirect how I'm feeling about something. It's like I feel like with you I can show up and be vulnerable because I can just share with you some things I'm going through and you're like, "Yeah, okay." Like you're just there to kind of sit with it with me. And I think that is the power of real vulnerability. Um, and I
Yeah.
think we can get it confused. But in the workspace, so like you work with a lot of celebrities, executives, and people that are running these huge businesses. How does vulnerability show up in those settings? Is there any difference from what you just shared?
This is the insight. I feel like, whoa, before I used to think that vulnerability was that, but vulnerability, especially in leadership, is being able to relax in any context.
Mm,
Like truly trusting every single moment, I guess, is ultimately what we're talking about. And I love it because you also show up that way. You show up with this almost, I like to think of it as a whiteboard. It's kind of, I can write something on it and then it just kind of gets wiped away. It's not like it stays there and we have to repeat it and we have to go through all this stuff. And I think that in leadership, it's kind of like that. It's almost this, yeah, whiteboard that you were completely relaxed. And yes, sometimes that means we're going to share things that make us feel really uncomfortable or that we're feeling really uncomfortable about. And it's not the only way to be vulnerable. Vulnerable is, I'm now realizing it's every muscle in my body That's vulnerability is everything. There's no, I'm not holding those pockets of tension or wondering what I need to do. You said something, what did you just say a minute ago? Because you were tying in these other things that I know you've been working on for the TEDx talk you're preparing, and all of that is,
The
um,
validation.
yes, validation, right. So we're not saying something because we need it to land somewhere. We also aren't kind of filtering everything we're being told through that. And I think that's why you feel that way when we're together too, is like I said, it's sort of a whiteboard. It's sort of, yeah, this, now this is happening. This wave is hitting, and then that wave. And how do we relax in the face of it? And I think when I look at leaders who are doing a really good job throughout any kind of throughout all sorts of industries and all of that, it's that they are able to just chill and just relax, oh, now this thing's happening, and they will have major things going down, right? And the
Mhm.
more they can relax into it, the stronger they're going to be as leaders, because people are going to want to be around them. I remember years ago I was going into a meeting with a CEO and a CFO of a Fortune, I think they were like 100, Fortune 100 company. And so CEO, CFO, I hadn't even met them yet. And then there were two CMOs. There was one out of New York and one out of LA. And we're going to this meeting, and the CMO, who I did know, I knew both of the CMOs really well. And the CMO out of New York said, "I'm going to sit next to you in the meeting because you just give me this sensation of calm. You just,
Yeah.
it feels so calm to be around you." And she was really nervous. They were all men, but she was the other woman, and she was
Mhm.
nervous about being in the room with the CFO and the CEO. So she just wanted to be in that frequency, in that field. And I think that's what we're talking about.
That is vulnerability right there.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. That's I can visualize that. I can see her sharing that with you, and you're just like, "All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it."
And you,
Um,
where have you seen it? I'm curious to know, or the inverse, where you've seen a lot of tension and what that's done.
yeah, I mean, I feel like every day when I see clients, there's so much vulnerability happening.
Mhm.
It is them sharing with me certain aspects of their life. And what's interesting is usually in the beginning of a session, if it's a first session, I can tell that they're kind of sharing pieces.
Mhm.
The more we kind of relax and just get in the session, it's interesting how they go even deeper within themselves and they open up. And it's not necessarily that they're sharing more, they're just sharing from a space of authenticity, which is so vulnerable, right? Like vulnerability, I think on like this Instagram, social media type of surface level that we can play at is going beneath the problem,
Mhm.
going beneath the, we talk about those stories, we tell ourselves those programs, going beneath the, people don't like me, but then going beneath that and trying to be like, okay, what's really underneath that and what's underneath that about me, not that it's about them, it's about me, and how can I keep going deeper. And I think the true vulnerability begins when we're vulnerable with ourselves,
Mhm.
without judgment, without tension, and just really going deeper and deeper within ourselves to be vulnerable within ourselves. And once we can get to that space, I think it's only then that we can provide space for someone else to really be vulnerable and we can hold them. And that's in leadership, it's not until, people can get roles, they can get the titles, they can get all of that. But the real leaders that are leading with vulnerability can sit in that space and hold space for other people. And that again takes you being able to be vulnerable with yourself. And I think that's where true vulnerability really starts. And from there, we can help outward creating the space to hold people who are being vulnerable.
Yes, and if you translate that again, vulnerability equals relaxation, equals
Mhm.
relaxing, right? It's, can you relax in yourself? And the bigger piece behind, under whatever metaphor you want to use, is safety. It's
Yes.
safety. It's, I feel safe. I feel safe. And so, and we'll instantly sense when we don't feel safe in a situation or with a person. We won't necessarily understand why. And like you said, it might be something inside of us that's being set off by whatever that other person is carrying. And it's the sides of the coin.
Mhm.
And in that moment, the responsibility, I love when the dissection of that word is the ability to respond, right? The responsibility lies in, okay, how do I give myself a sense of safety? Is
Mm.
it that I take some deep breaths? Is it that I distance myself from the situation or the person until I do feel safe? Is it that I talk to them lovingly and say, I don't know what's going on, but I just don't feel safe right now?
Mm.
And I was just having this conversation with a dear friend of mine, and she was saying, she was talking about, she was saying, he made me feel this or something. And I reminded her of that Eleanor Roosevelt quote of, no one can make you feel, well, the exact quote is, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. But really it's no one can make you feel anything without your permission. And it begs the question of, when we do feel something, right? When something comes out, it's like, what was inside, as you're saying. It reminds me of the Wayne Dyer bit of, when you squeeze an orange juice comes out, right? When people squeeze you, what happens? What comes out? And then remembering that thing of, is there a place of equanimity? And how do I give that to myself? I personally will seek safety in myself and also with God, and then with other people, so that point of vulnerability, meaning relaxing, meaning safety, is like, okay, how do I bring about safety? And then once we feel safe in ourselves and relaxed, everyone can feel safe around us. Yeah. I believe, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, as far as you could tell. That's great. I think that part of me used to think vulnerability was sharing all my problems with other people.
Mhm.
And I've definitely learned that that's not real vulnerability. And I think that that's where things can get confused when it comes to vulnerability. Like often we only repeat certain behaviors because we're getting something out of it. And what I have found with myself and how I used to be is, when I would share all my problems, it was so the other person would validate, oh yeah, that's not right, or like tell me that, just validate me. But in the same sense, then I expected it back from them to for they to tell me their problems, right? So
Mhm.
it was this thing like, we're both just struggling. It's so hard. We're just, and like that is where I think I used to get vulnerability confused. Is
Mhm.
that's not vulnerability. That's venting. That's playing the victim. Um, at least for me, looking back, knowing what I know now and doing a lot of deeper inner work, I'm like, wow, that's so interesting how I used to show up and what I was looking for. And what's interesting too with that is, I was doing that because I wanted something out of the conversation.
Mhm.
Wanted to take something from the conversation, information, gossip, whatever.
Mhm.
But real vulnerability is not needing anything.
Mhm.
Being heard, just having space. And it's really cool to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, I believe that's the most common misconception about vulnerability is the one you're touching on. It's what when we were up in the hills, we are saying, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this because this is such a prevalent misconception. And I was just on a call yesterday with the president of Women, Life, and Science because I'm going to go give another talk there uh, April 30th. And it's we were talking about precisely this again, because this is one of the things that we're going to focus on is just how to trust, how to relax and trust, and this kind of rinse and repeat, relax and trust. And sometimes in that, what comes out is stuff we might be struggling with, right? And as you said, we're then, however, in this new paradigm, we are avoiding the comparison trap. We are avoiding the, woe is me trap. We're avoiding that stuff. It doesn't mean that there aren't difficult things going on and we don't have moments that we struggle. I mean,
Right.
we might cry like 10 times a day, right? Because it's just the nature of being human and feeling all the things that we can feel. And it's all welcome. I think that's the other beautiful thing. It's all welcome. You are welcome, but only when you really truly give that to yourself can you fully also give it to others.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say if someone is hearing this conversation and maybe they were like how I was, complaining, all of that, whatever. I mean, it's no judgment. It's just how I used to be. What if someone is in that space right now and they're hearing this conversation and they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. How does one start to step into that relaxing in? Do you have any tips for them?
Yeah, well, one thing you'll notice, right, is you can start to notice more and more when your actual physical body is tightening up or not feeling safe. And I think that lots of times we fall into the traps that you're talking about that you've experienced in the past because we were trying to feel safe with other people, right? And we thought safety meant, okay, they're gossiping, so I'll gossip, or they're complaining about something, so I'll complain, and then we have something to compare and swap notes on, whatever it is, right? And again, nothing neither good nor bad, but so it's more of a question of how does it feel in your body, right? How does it feel? And I think that's one of the things that we often forget. We go in these loops around, what do I need to do? And I'm always telling people, it's so funny. I gave a talk in Mind Valley a couple years ago, and the title of the talk was how to transform without doing anything. And I had so much positive feedback. So many people came up and they said, oh my God, I really got it. I really got this. This is incredible, all this stuff. And this one woman comes up and she goes, I totally got the talk too. It was incredible. I loved it so much. But what do I do? And I loved her for that question. I absolutely loved her for that question because we all get in that. We think that there's some sort of tactic or something to do when in reality, what we're talking about is the exact opposite of that. So really what this is about is we notice something, we notice it happening, could be a behavioral pattern, but we'll see it, we'll feel it as sensations in our body. And then all we're invited to do is just see how much we can relax into it. Now I very rarely have people come into my field who are, complaining or gossiping. And side note on that, I remember years ago I was reading, I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, I shall speak ill of no man and all the good I know of him. And I have endeavored since that time to do the same. I just feel that it doesn't lead anywhere and it hurts you, right? So that's a side note, but the main point is, how do we relax no matter what is happening? So if someone's saying, and sometimes we won't be able to, sometimes we are not going to feel safety in that situation, and maybe the only answer is to remove ourselves for the time it takes for us to feel that safety again. It's like letting the body go back to homeostasis so we can come back in. And that's where we have a different choice, because we don't have that choice when our amygdala is activated. We don't have that choice when our body's all tightened up. We don't have that choice when we feel threatened. We don't have that immediate choice. So it's
Mhm.
how do you bring yourself back to that felt sense of safety? And again, it's a non-doing. It's like the opposite. It's literally, okay, I'm gonna just breathe. I don't have to respond. I think that's another thing. And I will say this for leaders, because we feel oftentimes that we need to respond immediately to things.
Yes.
We do not.
Mhm.
We do not. So whether that's an email, whether that's a provocation of some sort, whatever that is, we don't have to respond right away. And there is so much power in the space between. There's
Mhm.
so much power in the silence. And we as leaders really have to remember that. We don't need to give it oxygen. The vital ingredient for a fire to keep roaring is oxygen. Like, we don't have to breathe more life into it. We
Yeah.
can take that oxygen, we can direct it elsewhere. And so that's one of the things that I often counsel. I know that I've had numerous instances where I've been able to do that, and it started years ago, and they've all been profound. Yeah.
Mm. So good. So good. And thank you so much for jumping on today.
Mhm.
And yeah, we just encourage everyone on this Friday or whenever you hear this video back or listen to it on YouTube or on the podcast that you just relax into life. Less
Mhm.
is more. Don't give that. I love how you said, don't give it more oxygen because oxygen keeps the fire roaring. That was such a good visual. So great.
Mm. Mm.
Courtney, my friend, thank you
Yes,
so
girl.
much.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, all right, we got more stuff coming down the pipe for everyone, and we're so grateful that you showed up today.
Peace.